What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Off-Script Podcast. This is a very special episode celebrating the 10th anniversary of Ben 10 Alien Force that originally premiered on April 18th, 2008. And what better way to celebrate than with our special guest star, the voice of Ben Tennyson himself, Yuri Lowenthal. So thanks for coming on our show.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so thrilled that we got hooked up in time for this anniversary. Also, I'm doing my best not to feel old. It'll really been 10 years?
Yeah, it has. I remember actually seeing all the trailers with everything was coming out. Just like looking, they had a promotion where commercials would come on and there'd be little codes you type into the Cartoon Network website to start getting glimpses at the aliens. They kept it very ominous to intrigue people more.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Ominous or omnitrix? It's just
Basically the same thing.
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh yeah, basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can count on me for that kind of joke.
So I just want to say it's an honor to have someone who's been involved in so many projects that had a big influence on myself and like many others. Like you were Gino and Afro Samurai, Sasuke and Naruto, all of these great characters.
Oh man, speaking of Gino, who holds a special place in my heart, man, when you get to see Batman Ninja, which I'm bringing up because the same character designer, Bob Okazaki, designed the characters for it. It is gonna blow your mind. It is so insane. It's so good.
I've seen a lot of the trailers for it. It looks extremely like intriguing. Like I'm actually a big fan of Afro Samurai. I found it through the video game actually first. I went back and watched the anime and everything. Yeah, with Batman Ninja coming out, it's definitely gonna be something looking forward to.
Yeah. You're gonna dig it.
So let's talk a little bit about some more of your recent projects. I think everyone's excited for the new Spider-Man video game, and you recently posted a picture of yourself in what looks like a motion capture suit.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm glad I finally got to own up to it because the trailers they had released, had my voice in them, and people who are familiar with my work were getting in touch saying, "Hey, congratulations on Spider-Man!" But at that point, they were like, "We don't want anybody to, we don't want to release any of the cast names yet." So I had to lie to a lot of people and ignore a lot of tweets, and I'm glad that I can finally, after several years of working on the game, own up to the fact that, yes, I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah, that must have been a huge relief. So a lot of the moves that players will get to perform in the game, that was you doing the moves in the motion capture?
Oh, no. I mean, if you're looking at me as Peter Parker or Spider-Man in the spider suit not doing anything exciting, that was probably me. But if you're looking for the super exciting stuff, all the tricking and the flipping and the web slinging, that was mostly done by an amazing stunt performer named Ross Constam. So we worked together in tandem where I did all the sort of the acty stuff, and then he would do all the amazing Spider-Man hero stuff.
Oh wow! So a lot of different people got to put their own take on Spider-Man, but you still got to really insert yourself in the character. What would you say your version of Peter Parker kind of what are you trying to bring new or original to the mass different variations of Spider-Man that we've had over the past couple of decades? Honestly,
I'm just mostly bringing me to it. As far as the Peter that you get to see in the game, he's for once he's not new to his powers. He's had some experience with them, so he's a bit more confident, but he's still the same Peter.
Well, that's good, yeah, because with Marvel doing their third version of Peter cinematically, and there's been about, I think, at least 4 or 5 different Spider-Man cartoons with it. So to finally see a Peter Parker more experienced past all of the beginner phases, that's definitely something I feel people would look forward to.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for you to see it. My lips are sealed for most everything else because I'm afraid of letting something slip that I shouldn't. But, but I think everybody's going to be excited. I mean the gameplay, which you've probably seen in videos, is ridiculous. I could just watch him swing around the city.
Oh yeah, the game looks fantastic for everything, the combat, the scenery, the graphics, it all looks really good. So is there anything else before we jump right into Ben 10 that you've been working on, you feel like you want to start to get the word out a bit more?
Oh man, my wife and I have a production company, Monkey Kingdom Productions, and we're always making something. We're storytellers at heart, and so when we're not working on other people's projects as actors, we're writing and producing our own stuff. So in addition to the games and shows that we're working on for other people, I did a movie that comes out in June, a live action movie called Any Bullet Will Do, and it's a Western, and actually get to play the bad guy. I've made a career of playing heroes, but I actually got to play the bad guy in this one, and I have to say he's particularly despicable. So I look forward to people seeing that when it comes out. Um, I have a cameo in another movie called The Concessionaires Must Die, which comes out I think in the next week, about a group of kids trying to save like an independent movie theater from getting uh, sort of destroyed by this giant multiplex corporation. But the stuff that Tara and I are working on, uh, we just produced a web series that's available. First full season's available on pretty much any platform you can imagine: YouTube, Amazon Prime, Dailymotion. It's called What a Lark, and it's terrific. It's 10 episodes, and then we've got two things that we've done that are super close to my heart. We did 4 seasons of a web series called Shelf Life, which all I can say is it's like a live action Toy Story, but kind of super dark and weird.
Oh wow.
You could argue that that the Toy Story had its dark and weird moments, but this is like Toy Story on drugs, and it's I think I've pitched it in the past as Toy Story with a lot more profanity, but it's live action, so we play action figures on this sadistic young boy's shelf. Each of the episodes is short, and it's got a lot of cameos from other voice actors, the voice actor community, who are friends of ours, who were like, I want to play on that show. So there'd be a lot of people that you would recognize from the same circle that I run in. And then besides that, I've dipped my toe into podcasting recently. This will only appeal to you if you were a fan of Mad Max Fury Road. But a friend of mine and I did a year-long podcast. Not one episode that was a year long, but we did 52 episodes once a week, just on Mad Max Fury Road. So if you want to do a deep dive into Mad Max Fury Road, then check out the podcast You Are Awaited on iTunes.
Wow, all of this sounds like really intriguing. So you're really stretching your range with like all these different projects. Like they all sound like their own thing rather than trying to keep to the same type of typecasting hole you can find yourself in.
Yeah, I think as actors, we are at the mercy of how people want to cast us and who wants to hire us. I mean, we're never really in charge. It's funny, people will tweet me and they'll say, hey, you know what show you should be on? And I'm like, yeah, I would love to be on that, but those kind of decisions are not up to me.
Yeah.
I would love to play that kind of role. I would love to be on that show, but we can only do our best in the audition, if we even get an audition and hope to get cast. So Tara and I, in an effort to empower ourselves as actors, we formed a production company so we could start creating the type of content that we wanted to be a part of and tell the stories we wanted to tell.
Well, it's actually really inspiring that because you have such a passion and drive for the projects that you want to create, that you would go ahead and just start creating your own company to put the projects out there. So yeah, props to you. That must be like a lot of work.
Thanks.
A lot of time and everything, especially with your 2-year-old. You were just telling me about.
Yeah, yeah.
So
being a dad has thrown a bit of a crimp in my my production schedule, but we're working on it.
So, starting to get into the little meat of the conversation, what would you say is one of your first experiences when coming on to playing the character of Ben Tennyson? Like, what the if you had an audition process, what was that like? How was it pitched to you in the earlier stages?
It was a fairly long audition process because they already had done the first season, the first couple of seasons, depending on how you break it up, and it was a big thing for Cartoon Network, and I think it was a big change for them this early on in that show for them to say, hey, we're gonna sort of rebrand this and age Ben up a bit. So I think they were taking great care in the casting. So I went in, I sent an audition in like I send in auditions every day for stuff. I was a little bit familiar with the show, but not super familiar with it. And I got called back. So I got a second round of auditions, and they kept narrowing it down. I think I may have gone back 4 times at least, and each time, it was fewer and fewer people. At the end, there were a lot of guys that I knew, who were reading for the same part, which is always, it could be awkward, but luckily it's a supportive community. So, and I had worked with Andrea Romano a little bit before then, but we had not worked extensively together. But she knew me, and it was kind of intense, just in that usually I'll do an audition and forget about it. You either hear back or you don't. And this kept getting closer and closer and closer, and I had never been. Well, no, that's not true. I'd gotten to play Superman in Legion of Superheroes. That was my first lead on like a prelay, original American style animation show, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. But it was short. We didn't get to do a lot of episodes of that, and this was a big deal. And so the closer I got, the more nervous I got, and the less I tried to worry about it. But it was tough. And then I got the call that I had gotten it, and we got started. I was familiar just through the animation world and the comic book world of the guys who were basically running the show, Glenn Murakami and McDuffie, Dwayne McDuffie. And so that made me a little nervous too, because these guys, this was not their first rodeo by any stretch. But it turned into this amazing collaboration. And then, the deal. They cast great people in that trio. Sipes as Kevin, and Ashley as Gwen was just a really good. We just worked together really well. It became a very, very quickly had become a family sort of situation. And with Andrea at the helm, it took it. She always takes things to a whole other level. And we were off to the races. I had no idea that it was going to go on as long as it did, or that I was going to be, because you could argue that Alien Force only went on so long, and then you got Ultimate Alien, then you got Omniverse, which was its whole different thing. But the fact that I got to stay on as long as I did, I'm both amazed by and super happy about, even to this day.
That audition process sounded like a journey in itself, but to get to play the same character for about 7 or 8 years consecutively, that's not really something you see much about.
No, that I don't know that I'll ever get that again. You can look at we've been dubbing Naruto for over a decade, so you can look at the it's no One Piece, but it I think we just recorded episode 678 the other day.
Oh my god.
So yeah, I know that the end is in sight, obviously, because the show is done, but we're still working on it for a little bit. But working, with Cartoon Network on the Ben 10 franchise as long as I did was something I may not get again in my career. It was really a thing.
Right. Sort of going on a side note regarding recording the Sasuke of dubs for so long. So with the way like anime works, like with its constant flashbacks and like the multiple upon multiple video game tie-ins that all pretty much cover very similar story arcs. You have to re-record the same scenes over and over again for like the X amount of years whenever they like readapt it into whatever video game, or flash back to it again in a certain episode, or do they reuse a lot of dialogue?
They reuse it where they can. I am actually surprised at how much we have to re-record. Sometimes it'll be exactly the same scene, but they'll have changed a little bit of the animation. Not the whole thing, just a little bit, and it's just they change it just enough so that we have to re-record it. And then, of course, for the video games, they've got their own thing, and we generally will re-record a scene, even if it's been in the series. We'll record it for the video game because it's always slightly different. But sometimes they'll just reuse, the stuff for flashbacks, and then sometimes we'll have to step in and maybe just do a line here or there. And sometimes they want to retell it sort of from a different angle or from somebody else's perspective, and we redo the whole thing.
So like it's always building upon the same story, just from like multiple iterations. So
Yeah.
even after your journey as Ben Tennyson ended in Omniverse, you still carried over to the reboot as Vilgax.
That
so
was a
that's
super, like I have the guys from Man of Action to thank for that. When they didn't bring me back for Ben for the new version, although it was great that they went back to Terra from the first
yeah.
iteration. Um, I just assumed my time was up, but like I said, I had such a good run. I was not upset about that at all. But I didn't think I was going to come back in this, and it was, I give it to Steve Siegel over at Man of Action and Duncan and all those guys, Joe, for finding a place for me, and not only a place, but getting to play Vilgax. I mean, getting to play the villain of instead of the hero this time was something that I'm sure they had to sell Cartoon Network on. There's no way they just I haven't heard the backstory on this, but there's no way they pitched it and Cartoon Network was immediately like, yeah, whatever. I'm sure they had to sell me on it, or sell them on me. But when Steve told me it was something he wanted to do, I'm like, oh, I'm all in. If you think we can make this work, because I'm clearly not Steve Bloom. I don't have like the Steve Bloom voice or from the Warriors, and he's in Black Lightning now, and I'll come up with his name in a minute.
Oh man, it's like James something.
James Remar.
Yeah.
Thank you. See, I knew we'd get it together. I don't have Remar's voice, so I was like, what kind of Vilgax are they looking for that I could? But it really pushed me in a direction, and they got me to play a character that I've never played before for anything, which was great, and I owe it to them for that.
Yeah, I gotta say you do it very well. I watched
Thank you.
the episodes involving him. I recognized the voice, like it sounded familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on it until I looked it up, and I saw your name, and I was like, no way. So I went back and had to listen as hard as I could. I was like, that's really him.
Which is why this power is rightfully mine! Yes! I'm Vilgax once more!
Yeah.
So,
and I will tell you, it was not a pleasant voice to do on my throat, but I definitely wanted to push it into that zone, and I was happy to take the hits on this one.
what would you say is one of your favorite memories working on Ben 10? Be it like a scene in the actual show, or just like a cast experience? Just it could be anything.
We did a cast party for at the end of one of the early seasons, and it wasn't, Cartoon Network wasn't doing something, so we just decided to throw it at my house, and everybody came over, and it was just like, I mentioned the family aspect before. Everybody was there, and it was so magical and awesome, and there was food and drink, and it ended in this giant Nerf gun war that, if you can imagine, like the entire cast and crew, down to Glenn Murakami and Dwayne McDuffie and Andrea Romano, just attacking each other with Nerf guns. Just live with that vision for a moment. It was really something. There was as much as I enjoyed my time on Omniverse, we had a different family for the first two bits, and that I always loved that.
I mean, a Nerf gun war with the Ben 10 cast sounds like a dream come true for me, so I can imagine what it must have been like for you, so that's fantastic.
I'll tell you what, even David McCallum, who played Paradox, you were probably too young to remember him from what we all know him from, but he was, I'm trying to think of how old he was. He had to have been in his 70s when he got into this Nerf gun battle. But
oh wow,
yeah, having a Nerf gun war with Ilya Kuryakin is that's something for the yearbook.
So just to get the audience a little bit of background information, the original reason I got in contact with you was because I was interested in trying to get you involved with the animated adaptation of a story the Ink Tank and I have been developing the past year and a half, involving a 21-year-old Ben Tennyson, and you seemed interested in the work, and it makes me want to ask, regardless of our project, but just in general, What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on a story involving an adult Ben Tennyson? Like, what kind of character would you imagine him to be, like, in his early 20s? Like, right around the time where he's just about to become Ben 10,000, but is not there quite yet.
Yeah, I love it. I will say, you know, I told you I had to go to your DeviantArt page to see, and to your website to see what it was all about. I knew I couldn't do it just because of Cartoon Network and stuff. I couldn't play the same character in something else. But going there and looking at what you had done, A, is a testament to you, because I think it's great, and B, is a testament to the world and the characters from the show that are created. You can, you know, when a show is really good, it gets you thinking about what happens outside of the episodes that you see. And that clearly inspired you and sent you in a great direction. I mean, you know, the cool thing about Ben is, you know, he starts off and he's really immature, and he starts to grow up a little bit. So, you know, at first he's, you know, just using his powers, you know, not well, and for, you know, for the fun of it. And then he realizes he's got a bit of a responsibility. And I'd like to see, you know, where it goes past then, where those, you've definitely developed the relationships in a much more adult way, but I think also a very natural way. You know, it seems like a natural trajectory from, you know, where the show is going. And I appreciate that. You could have just stayed with the same stuff, you know, that was established in the show, but you extrapolated your own, you know, stuff beyond that. And that's one of the things that I found really impressive, besides just the art style, which I liked.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, my main goal with it is I'm sure you've heard about how the last 3 seasons of Omniverse were aired at 6 a.m. with no advertising. Were you aware of like how it was? Yeah, so those, in my opinion, were some of the best episodes, not just of Omniverse, but of like the entire show in general. There was so much material, and it all seemed like it ended so abruptly and unfairly. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to get some more experience in, because my goal is to sort of be the Dwayne McDuffie of my own show, for like to be involved in the writing process, storyboarding, character design, and all of that. And I figure to get the best experience is to work with something I know very well. So these characters are something that I've really invested a lot of passion and time with. So it's something I feel I can really exemplify as a testament to my skill.
Yeah, no, I 100% with you. I don't know what the reason was to dump all those episodes at the very end, which was also tough because I had written one of those episodes. It was my first, you know, writing. I've been writing for a while, but it's my first writing credit on an animated show, you know, a major, you know, network show. And I was really proud of the work that I did. And then I didn't even get to see it when it aired because of what they had done with the schedule.
Yeah, that was the Most Dangerous Game Show. That was actually the episode right before the series finale. Oh, I was also now that we're on the subject of that, were you the one that came up with the idea to have all the female characters in it?
Yeah, it was not my idea to put them all there. There were 2 when we went in for the story meeting into the writers' room. They said we were thinking of doing this kind of episode or this kind of episode, and they had sort of the 2 ideas for it. One, I don't even remember what the other one was, but I was like, oh, definitely that one. I'm definitely intrigued with that one, or intrigued by that one. And then we developed it together in the writers' room, and then I went off and wrote it, and it was super fun, and it ended up being great because I got to bring back characters that my wife had played. So that's always nice as a husband to provide for your wife when you're writing a script.
Yeah, she's been 2 of your love interests on the show. She was Jennifer Nocturne and Esther.
I mean, we don't always, obviously, you know, because we don't always have control. We're not always in charge of casting ourselves on the same show and getting to work together. But it is really nice when it does happen.
I'm very interested in working with you at some point in the future, probably on like an original animated project. What kind of character would you want to be? Like, are there any characters you still like feel like you'd want to try out and just haven't had the opportunity to yet, or characters you really enjoy playing?
I love playing villains because I've played so many heroes, and I think a lot of actors will probably say this. I love playing villains. I think it's because in my real life, I'm a nice guy, and I love to find a socially acceptable way to act evil without the consequences. So, and I love to choose scenery. So villains are always nice. And besides that, I just like characters that are really well written. I like characters with an interesting arc. So villains and interesting heroes. I don't know if that's a good answer to that question, but that's my answer.
Any guideline's a good guideline. That just about wraps up everything I wanted to cover. Do you have any final thoughts before we sign out?
I am glad that we found each other at the time that we did. Ben 10 is on my mind still a lot. It was a great time in my life, a great experience, and it's amazing that it's going to be the 10th anniversary of when we started. I still have that family. While we lost Dwayne McDuffie, he's still part of that family, and I think about him a lot. I still see Glenn. I still see Dwayne's wife, Charlotte. I still see those, Ashley and I still hang out. And so it's still a tight family. I think it was important for all of us, but it was definitely important for me, and I'm glad that we did this today.
Well, it's definitely made a huge impact on so many people, including myself. Ben 10 has always been a huge passion of mine and very inspirational, and it's a very unique show that pretty much sums up like everything I could want from a cartoon show, but didn't realize I wanted it till it happened. Like, it was full of surprises, but they were always satisfactory. So yeah. I just want to thank you for like giving an incredible experience that I hope like many other people are still going to be able to appreciate way further down the line.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on our podcast episode today. I will put a lot of links in the description of this video to all those projects you mentioned earlier. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be excited to check those out. I'm personally probably going to check out Shelf Life pretty soon. That sounds really awesome.
If you go to... You could go to my website, which is yurilowenthal.com, but a better place to go is our production company sort of hub website. It's monkeymayhemhub.com. And from there, you'll be able to link to a lot of stuff we've done. And then you can find me at Yuri Lowenthal on Twitter. I've been a little less there than I had in the past, just because I've been trying to focus, and social media does not help me focus.
So if you guys would want to comment below and see what other guest stars we might be able to try to get on in the future, you can check out updates on what's happening in the future at kurothewebsite.com. And as always, keep it fizzy.